what's behind a statement, Black Lives Matter. It's important for us to understand what's behind a man like Martin Luther King. What's behind civil rights activists? What's behind some of the words and some of the emotional expressions that we see happening from African Americans across our nation and across the globe. I want to put this in a scriptural context to kind of help us kind of understand what I want to call Black pain. There's a scripture found in Matthew chapter 2. I'm going to start from verse 16, read through verse 18. Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise man, was exceedingly angry. And he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and all of its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise man. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Now, we understand that this is Jeremiah the prophet. He's prophesying, hundreds of years ago about a time when Rachel, symbolic of Israel, would be weeping because her children would be killed by a political entity for no reason at all. And the response that the prophet says is Rachel is weeping. She's lamenting. She's crying out because her children are no more. And then the scripture says this, she refuses to be comforted. So when we talk about Black pain, I think this is a powerful text that kind of helps us wrap our minds and our hearts around what that pain is kind of like to give us an understanding. You have to understand that for the African American, the pain that they've experienced didn't just start with George Floyd's murder. The pain has been going on for over 400 years from slavery. From the time that Africans were pulled out of Africa, brought to America, sold in slavery, separated from their families, experienced Jim Crow laws, broken apart, torn apart, made to work hard, didn't know if they were going to live from one day to the next. Finally, when so-called emancipation comes, they're struggling, they're still oppressed, they still deal with racism. There's been a 400-year narrative that's taken place. And sometimes I hear people say, well, why don't you guys just get over it? Why don't you just bag it? That's something that happened a long time ago. Well, the reality is this. Even though slavery happened hundreds of years ago, the narrative still continues. And every time there's an incident that happens, it just continues to rip open the scab, and the pain goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and it creates and it brings to surface a trauma that has never, ever really been gotten over. The other day, I was preaching at a large church, and I was talking a little bit about racism. And after the service, God bless her, this young white girl, she comes up to me, and she says to me, I thought that we were through with that. I never would have known that racism still existed in America today. She says, I was so shocked. I was on the bus with my husband, and there was a Black man that was on the bus, and he was helping me. And she says, this white person came up and just began to assault him and talk crazy to him. I couldn't believe that this kind of thing still exists. Well, it does exist. My point is this, that it's a continuum. It continues to happen over and over and over and over again. And just because it may be out of your mind or out of your sight, it does not mean that it does not exist. And what happens is when that wound festers and the wound grows and it hits a place and it reaches a pitch where it's like, I just can't take anymore. So we had the young man, Ahmaud Arbery. We saw the other, Breonna Taylor, and then now George Floyd. What are people supposed to do with that kind of anger? What in the world, what do you do that? You just can't say, oh, go take a chill pill, just kind of relax, or just kind of pray about it. it opens up wounds, and the pain gnashes. The pain is deep. The pain hurts. The pain torments. The pain tortures. And you say, what do I do to deal with this kind of pain? The scripture says Rachel lamented, and the kicker is this. It said she refused to be comforted. So in other words, she has this pain because her children are gone. She has this pain because innocent little boys, 2 and under, they're wiped out. And she's saying, listen, don't comfort me. Don't talk to me. Don't try to appease me. Don't give me platitudes. Don't give me little cliches. Don't bring to me little religious quilts or political sayings or political quilts. No, what I love has been taken away from me. And what you're offering as a comfort, I don't want it because the pain is so deep and the pain is so real. And I believe this is what many African Americans are experiencing today, a real pain where they're saying, I don't want to be comforted. We can't take any more of this.